Welcome to Chew the Chat podcast.
Right, I'll press record, dude.
Well, I will introduce you. You are Stu Wiffin.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm all right. Thanks, mate. Yeah, I'm kind of. I mean, we spoke briefly before we press record that it does seem like a lot of parts of the UK are starting to kind of start that journey to resume normality of whatever that normality is going to be, and it feels nice. I'm cautious, but it feels nice, just to kind of start to be able to kind of reconnect with people, and because I think fundamentally, Sam, that's been the thing. Certainly, I've missed the most, and I think a lot of people have. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are quite solitary that have already, lived a very quiet life already. But for me, I like people, and I find it really strange not being around lots of people and being able to just kind of, you see someone and I'm a hugger. I like to hug people and stuff like that, and so it's weird, like just kind of. But me missing hugging people's a blip in the whole landscape of this madness, whatever.
Well,
it is.
I hope so, Stu. I hope so, because it's how, like you say, how we do slip back into whatever the new normal is. What that tactile nature of things, I hope we don't lose. But there is a lot of paranoia, isn't there? And it's been a difficult one, and I imagine for you as well. I think everybody's experienced, even in your close circles, some people are really, really paranoid and worried and alarmed. Yeah. Some people are really kind of just relaxed and crack on as normal. I've been kind of more the other and trying to be mindful and respectful of everyone around. But I think it's definitely a mindfuck, and I think, again, before we started, you mentioned they open the shopping centres, they start opening Primark, and all of a sudden people who were, in my experience, some people who've been creeping around and been really kind of cautious, straight to the front of the queue and cracking on. So it's weird. I think we'll see.
That side of things I'm kind of torn on. It's like, if they can manage to keep it at whatever distance, is the distance it has to be by the time this pod comes out, then great. If people can manage it and do it safely, because I do also think these crazy big queues, I look at it initially and think, really, how bad do you need a pair of pants? But I'm also mindful that the wheels of the economy also have to start turning.
Totally, yeah.
And so, it's not all about the money, of course, but, I do think, industry has to start moving again, because, that my industry's at a standstill, and, there's nothing more I'd like to do than open the doors to my club, but I won't do it. Why it's not safe to do so, Well,
at that point, then, I'm going to bring the listeners in on, Stu Wiffin. So you are a man of many trades at this point, for sure.
Master of absolutely none, mate.
Very humble as well. But one of the Podbible founders, yeah. Obviously host of Hardcore Listing Podcast with Chris Glasson, which is how I sort of came across you sort of after Scroobius Pip and the Distraction Pieces podcast. Then you've gone on to do Off the Beaten Track, which is just smashing it. That's just seems to be going from strength to strength to strength. The Pink Toothbrush, legendary alternative club, I think the longest running in the UK, is it?
It is, yeah. Fiercely proud of that.
Yeah. And, and dad, husband. And as you mentioned, in this time, industry slowing down, and you've obviously got the club, and you're used to being around those people in the club at the weekends. But what I have noticed is you have not sat around, have you? Because you are producing fucking content in this time. You've just been pumping stuff out.
Thing is, Sam, it's like, thanks for that intro, by the way. No. That was really kind of you.
Yeah, amazing.
But yeah, I think that the one thing that, as soon as it was told that, we're in lockdown, this is what's happening, I guess so many other people had knee-jerk reactions of like shit. You know, I didn't then think I was going to go and dust off my guitar and write, you know, my difficult second concept album. You know, I was like, right, what can I do? And it was like, well, I'm blessed that I've got a little space at the end of the garden where I can record stuff. So I was like, right, well, I'm just going to kind of really crack on and just record podcasts and radio shows. I started, instead of opening the club doors, I'd record shows instead, and then put them out at 9 o'clock on a Friday night and a Saturday night, and give people an opportunity to still listen to the music. And every club was doing it. Every DJ was doing live streams. Everyone was doing. We'd done it with Scroobius, and that we was doing like quizzes.
Oh, the quizzes were immense with Bang Boom and stuff. They were brilliant.
We had lots of fun with that, but I mean, I've got to level with you. I'm a bit quizzed out now.
Yeah.
I'm done with the quizzes. Not putting them together, but just doing quizzes, because every Saturday night would be a quiz on Zoom with, with our friends that we couldn't see.
Yeah.
But the podcast side of things and doing that for no other reason than to keep my brain busy.
Yeah.
Because if I didn't do that and just kept thinking, right, how can I try and make the most positive use of time in a very negative time? How can I do that? And if I didn't do that, I think I would have gone stir crazy and probably got quite low quite quickly.
Yeah.
Because I just think that if you, I mean, I'll try and run every day. That was something that I sort of was trying to do. Like, well, I say like most people, but like a lot of people, for the first sort of 2-3 weeks, it was getting to 7 o'clock, and I was like, right, fuck it, I'm having a beer. And
on that note,
cheers, buddy.
Cheers.
But I was getting into a little bit of holiday mode, because my wife got made redundant as soon as it kicked in the most corrupt way ever, and so we was all about, and so we just fell quite quickly into like, oh, let's open a bottle of wine, and
I think everyone done that, didn't they?
Yeah, but there's no right or wrong way of dealing with it, because they're uncharted waters. We've never been here before, and it's
totally, yeah.
And I was podcasting with someone this morning, and I asked them how they've been, been getting on, had they been making music, and he was like, look, I've got to be honest with you. He said, like, there's no rule book, like, and whatever you're doing, if you're getting out of bed in the morning and you're getting through the day and you feel okay when you get back into bed, keep doing that.
I like that.
And I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
totally. and my way of dealing with that was just recording lots of podcasts and really like trying to sort of get better at things like graphic design, so I could do some artwork and things. I mean, I look at what you do with this podcast, Sam, and like visually the stuff that comes across on your social media, it all looks so good.
Thank you. Stu,
like the video content and that looks so brilliant, and it's like, I want to get better at doing things like that. And so it was like, I'm just gonna. I
nearly hit you up actually, because I noticed you've on the Insta post, you've got those kind of moving motion things happening now that are really cool. I kept meaning to get around and saying, what are you using for that? That looks real cool.
Witchcraft.
Oh, okay. Aidan, make a note of that. Witchcraft. Producer Aidan's behind Paul McCartney there, behind us.
All right, Aidan.
Yeah, he's helping out. I mean, similar to you for my story, Stu. I mean, I spoke to you at the beginning of this as well, didn't I? When we sort of lining up hardcore listing when I came over to you. For me, it was a case of same thing. I had this little space, dive in here and make this sort of upgrade to bringing mine into... I always had an idea of bringing this into sort of the video format, because I did a bit of graphic design earlier and liked the idea of using it, and then fell on my feet with young Aidan, who was just... Willie just wants to gobble up experiences, and he's just come in and he's that young energy and vision, and he knows all the apps, and I'm like a Luddite, but he squares me off, and it's working out really nice. And thank you for saying that, coming across your way that way as well. That's nice. That's really nice.
Well, I think one of the other things that I noticed quite quickly as well, that seems to be disappearing, that is kind of weirding me out a little bit. And at first, when I go out for a morning run, like maybe say like, a week, 2 weeks in, wherever I went, firstly and most importantly, there was no airplanes in the sky, there was no cars on the road, and it was beautiful.
Yeah.
It was peaceful.
Yeah.
And so I'd try and go running quite early in the morning. And then what I noticed was, I don't know if you ever have a run, but if you run past another runner, you'll normally get a nod or a morning or a wave. And that was still the case. But then there would be people walking dogs or walking on the other side of the road that would kind of give you a wave. That would never have given you a wave, you know, in February. But I think they were so starved of that human connection that they were getting it where they could. I was seeing more and more people when I was running, sort of standing at the end of people's drives, like, you know, just chatting to neighbours because they missed interaction and connection. And I think that was something that was really nice to see, that, you know, it reminded us that we do need other people and we do need, you know, different conversations and opinions and chat. And that was lovely to see. But what I have noticed as we're starting to kind of move back into, I guess, a normality of sorts, that people are starting to retract again into their kind of my world, my life, you know, and not be quite so, you all right over there? Morning. Like, and all of a sudden, heads are down a little bit more, and it seems like they're just getting on with their run. People on the other side of the road would probably look at me again like I was a lunatic if I would have called out "Good morning." Do you know what I mean? And I, you know, I must also stress that I live in a very kind of busy area of Essex, whereas as soon as you find yourself in smaller villages and that mentality just seems to go, and it's really weird because when I'm on holiday, you know, I'll say to my wife, we go to Scotland or the lakes or Wales, and you're in these, you know, beautiful places and these little villages, and everybody says hey, and it's like, why does that have to kind of, you know, stop when we drive out of this village? Why don't people just still say hello?
We've looked at that a couple of times on this podcast, and I've had Aidan drag up. There was some research done. It was done on mice and rats in like the late 50s, early 60s, and it was all about like behavioural responsibility and how we have a diminished responsibility, or we the hive kind of behavioural patterns change when there's more and more numbers, you know. And I always get that feeling when I go into London, you know, like you go into London and it's fucking so fast, and but you're kind of alone with everybody. But I don't know, what the more numbers there seems to be, we seem to be on higher alert for some reason, and sort of in more fight or flight mode. Whereas, yeah, like you say, in the little villages you go in, people know one another's names, and there's a whole flip side to that, because you say, you know, village mentality, and you can't fart without, you know, Derek saying something in the post office, and we'll have a whinge about that. But like you've just pointed out, and, you know, I think we're all feeling that in this time, as we start to get back to new normal, you'd like to think we would take some of those, which I think everybody's felt, that you've just expressed, you know, the feeling of like, oh, wow, yeah, we're talking to each other, and actually I've spoke to my neighbour I've lived next door to for 9 years, and it's the first time I spoke to him. Like, yeah. But will we learn, and will we bring any of this forward? Will we get back on at 8 days a week? Or will we say, you know what, I don't need to do the Saturday, I'm going to stay home with the family on the Saturday because I got away with not spending X and Y and Z for 3 months? But I don't know. I think you're seeing an early pattern, aren't you, of people, like you say, tearing into Primark and wherever it is to get back on the gravy train, I guess.
But I do think with things like, I mean, I spend a lot of my time working in London, and it is weird, you know, if I get off the train, I walk to where I work, you know, headphones go on, and I like to think of myself as a pretty friendly person, but I do find that, like, I walk with almost you know, a pace which is like, right, I've got to be somewhere, you know, and I kind of get caught up in that, and you see everybody else kind of, you know, the same, you know, he's being self-involved, he's thinking, right, I've got to be here at this time, I've got to do this, is really important. But what I find really interesting is that, and it doesn't happen very often because people don't interact like that in certainly in London, is if I was walking, you know, with my kind of headphones on, with my head down, just thinking, right, fucking, I've got to be here at this time, I've got to do this. if someone's walking alongside me and sort of just tapped me on the shoulder and went, "How you doing, mate? You all right?" It'd break me from that mindset in an instant.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm good. You all right?
Yeah.
What are you up to?" And like, and wouldn't it be the world would be a better place if that happened more often,
Yeah,
wouldn't
of course,
it?
Yeah.
Like, because I know it sounds ridiculously hippie and dumb, but everybody's just so self-involved and just caught up in this kind of mindset of have to be here, there, that. But, don't talk to anyone on the train. And people are like pushing down and tutting But if anybody at any given point taps you and just goes, "Sorry about that, you all right?" You don't instantly go, "Fuck off." You instantly just go, "Oh, sorry."
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So you're right.
Yeah.
And
it's like you're back. I'm back in the room.
And it is. I'm back in the room, and it's like, why does that exist? Why do you get your kind of your daily grind face on? And I think because it is.
You've nailed it with I think it's time, Stu. I think that the productivity of everything, as you mentioned, the economy. We're so efficient now. Everything's so efficient, and we've got so much reach. Because as you mentioned, on that train where no one's speaking to each other, we're all looking for some kind of connection because everyone's swiping and feeling connected to things, but we're in our physical. These are like the avatars now. This is like your avatar, this bit, isn't it? It's like you're actually it's all actually happening in the screen and in the thing, but actually you're sat next to people and like you say, boom, back in the room. Oh, yeah, all right, mate, yeah. I don't know. I think it feels like we're so efficient that's programming us now. And I think, again, this lockdown, not to stay on the lockdown for too long, because I'm sure everyone's fucking bored to death, but we are coming out of it. And I think in this lockdown, for me, and it sounds like similarly for you, like having time, slowing everything down, recognising your neighbour, the run, the dog walker, just that's really useful. Will we take any of it forward?
110%. 110%, Sam. It's so weird. About 2 days before lockdown was kicked in, like I say, I was flying around town doing things for the magazine and then getting back and then obviously doing the clubs and just spinning a lot of plates, because I think when you work for yourself, it's very, very hard to, when any kind of opportunity presents itself, to go, "No, I'm all right, thanks." You're so used to kind of building things from grassroots of having not a pot to piss in, and so you just think, "Oh, right, no, I'll be able to do that. I'll find time." And it got to the point where I'm 47, but I forever feel like I'm 21, and it just got to, for the first time in my life, I just thought, I need to listen to my body a little bit here, because I'm getting really fucking weird chest pains, and this is quite strange. And so I spoke to my wife, and I was like, "Look, I don't want to freak you out, but I'm just getting like pretty mad chest pains, and I'm working a lot, and I'm trying to spin too many plates, I think, so I might go and get myself checked out." And so I went to the doctors, and I was like, "Look, this is kind of how I'm feeling." And he was like, "Right, okay, do you want to just talk me through a week?" And I was like, "Yeah." So I explained what I'd done that week, and he was like, "Mate, you need to slow down."
I could tell you that from Instagram.
And he was like, you just need to slow down." And I was like, "Right." He was like, "Look at like what you're doing, and look at what maybe you wouldn't have to do if you didn't. What could you maybe work smarter at rather than harder?" And I was like, "Right, okay." Fuck me. I mean, I was looking at trying to slow things down. The whole world put the brakes on the next day and done it for me. I was like, well, that was good timing.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And so lockdown's been good for that. I've managed to reset, and I will definitely, to answer what you mentioned a moment ago, I will come out of this working smarter rather than harder. Like, as we're doing this over Zoom now.
Yeah.
Zoom has been like a fucking revelation for me.
Do you think you'll keep this... some of this going then for certain guests?
Massively. Like, in regards to podcasting, I've podcasted with people that I'd never in a million years have ever managed to get to my studio.
Yes.
Just because, and most of my podcasts, I'm chatting to musicians, actors, comedians, DJs. None of them can do their trade, so they're all at home.
Yeah.
And they're missing them chats. So it's like, right, okay, so do you want to do it? So it's been brilliant. I've recorded enough to get me into February next year, so
Wow.
I'm well ahead of
Fucking
myself.
hell. And you've been pumping them out as well. They've been coming out
Yeah.
like clockwork, haven't they? Your Patreon stuff with hardcore
Yeah.
listing and stuff.
So yeah, I'll come out of there, and just things like going into London for a meeting. It's like, you know, I mentioned I live in Essex, so you know I have to get into town, get the train, then get the tube, and it's like just for a half-hour meeting, it writes the whole day off, and it's like I'll just do their meetings over Zoom now.
And do you think businesses, I mean, it feels like big business is going to sort of take some of that on, because why would you have premises with, you know, or overheads and fix if it's working now? You know, and maybe people who are on salary, this is another kind of, again, I don't want to go off too deep on it, but it's another thing I've been thinking about with, as you mentioned, people are at home, people are able to be efficient with the technology. So instead of having 60 staff in an office block that requires all of the services and all of the overheads, and people are going in there for their 9-hour shift and they can get that work done in 4 hours, but they've got to fucking drag their asses through the day, go home shattered, as you say, on the tube, on the train. Does it shift, do big business shift it a little bit to kind of price work for those guys and say, right, well, we need this and this and this done this week, crack on. And you're on your laptop, you might get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and bash it out by 12. The rest of the day is yours, you know, and you're a happier, more balanced, efficient employee for that. They haven't got the, you know, does some of that happen? I mean, the technology's
I think
there.
so.
The technology's there.
I mean, to draw from some, I mean, I do a little bit of consultancy work for someone who, you know, he's paying a ridiculous amount of money for his office in East London, and I've watched his business. It hasn't dropped in any way, shape, or form over the last 3 months because he's got good staff that are you know that enjoy their work and they've been working from home. And I think I'd be surprised if they went back to that office at that price. I think there's and that's just a company that employs maybe 12 people. When you start looking at these huge corporations that have got these office blocks all over the capital, and you just think, well, is your business still doing okay?
Yeah.
You know, like why would you, you know, are people happier? I don't know. I mean, it is weird. Like as much as I will definitely start to utilise these remote kind of meetings, I still also do think it's nice, especially when you podcast, to be in a room with someone.
That's the flip, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's nice to sort of. I can see your face, and you know, but it is nice to be in a room with someone and get their vibe off of their body
all
language,
the cues, and just the energy. Yeah,
of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, I don't know. Crazy times, Sam.
It certainly is. Well, I wanted to dig in, and again, for listeners, long-time listeners of this short little podcast history, January we got up and running. You guys, yourself, Chris, obviously Scroobius, Pip, the Distraction Pieces Network, as I've said to you, I think we mentioned it on your podcast and in chats between us anyway, massive influence on me, massive impact in bringing what I was sort of logging into in America and bringing it here. You guys are kind of at the forefront of that, and it's been amazing following your journey. And then obviously getting in touch with you guys, and then the Podbible magazine. You're just doing so much, as you've said there yourself. I'm interested to know, I know you're normally on this side of things, asking the questions, you know, and with hardcore listing, for people who don't know, it's top fives and it's fucking brilliant. You can have just the wackiest, silliest shit, or you can have moments of like, wow, you know. But I'm interested to sort of dig into you a little bit, Stu, you know, like that drive you've talked of, you're always spinning plates, you're always hardworking. You know, what was it like for you growing up then? What was life? Were you born and bred in Essex and mum and dad there and everything? And, you know, how did it go? And I know you did music, you got into music pretty early and did well with music. So take us through a little bit of that.
My dad was a docker in Tilbury Docks, and my mum was a housewife and part-time hairdresser. And, yeah, had a very basic, loving, working class upbringing. Schools I went to didn't really offer any kind of anything aspirational or anything. Certainly, you was never encouraged to kind of look at the arts as any kind of option. You know, creativity wasn't something that was particularly encouraged. I wasn't good at art, So that was kind of it for me. You know, media studies was the year that I was at school was the first year that media studies was brought in as a lesson, and that interested me. And so I kind of done that. I had no idea what I wanted to be, and I was a classic kind of in-betweener at school. You know, I wasn't necessarily good at football. I wasn't good with the ladies. I was a tubby kid, and so you know it's ridiculous. You know those lads that are good at football and confident with the ladies. You know they become the you know the lads, the jocks, the whatever you want to call them. And I was never one of them. You know I never had any grief with them, but it wasn't me. And throughout the whole of school, I was always more interested. I had a friend that went to the same school as Chris, funnily enough, and Chris went to like a school for bright kids, which is hilarious.
Big up, big powerful Chris Glasson.
But yeah, I had a friend who was my age that I met when I was 5 at Cubs, and he to this day performs as a kind of one-man comedy music act called Cunt and the Gang. And from a very young age, he didn't give a shit about what you was meant to do, and he'd done what he thought would be good. Not at anyone's detriment. He wasn't an arse in any way, but he was his own man. And I've always really been fascinated by people that are their own man and don't want to fit in with them people, don't want to necessarily be one of the cool kids like that. And I wanted to be one of the cool kids. Of course I did. I wanted to get on. I wanted to have, I wanted to meet a girl and I wanted to be better at football, but I just couldn't do any of that. But when I started kind of spending more time with him, he didn't go to my school. I was just more intrigued by that. You know, he would design his own. He bought these pens and would like draw his own T-shirts, and he would like, he had a tiny little like Casio PT1, like a £20 like keyboard. And he'd be like, right, should we sing some songs over this? And we'd just write like novelty songs, and we'd be like 10, and I used to just get more excitement out of being around him and him having. I look back and realised he was like an absolute creative powerhouse.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to be around that, and I still want to be around him. And I'm hanging out with him tomorrow night, and he's still.
Oh, he's got ferocious energy, hasn't he? He's got ferocious energy.
It's incredible. It's incredible. He's one of the brightest people I know, and could have literally have probably been a very, very wealthy man, in some kind of smart guy job, but chose to pursue the things that made him laugh.
Happiness.
And, completely that, and that would be something that I align that in Scroobius Pip, and there. I like to be around people that kind of inspire me and get me fired up to want to sort of better myself and trying to. And so, yeah, I've always felt like, I guess, imposter syndrome. I think that's something that I always felt growing up. I never, because you're not ever, I'm not saying I had a hard childhood in any way, shape or form. I didn't. I had a great childhood, but was never really pushed hard academically. I didn't particularly get good exam results in anything, and I wasn't, I couldn't play any instruments, I couldn't draw, I didn't know what I was going to be, and so I kind of left school and went to college and become a qualified mechanic.
Really, I didn't know that. I didn't know that bit.
Don't ask me to change your tyre, Sam.
Okay.
Honestly, I wouldn't know how to change a hubcap, mate.
Well, it's changed a lot now. You need an app, don't you, now, to do anything in a car?
Yeah, exactly.
Diagnostics.
So but I guess come out of school not knowing what the hell I was going to do, and you don't know who you are at that age either, and I was still kind of. Yeah, I don't know. Do you want me to sort of carry on with where my head was at?
Yeah,
that point?
totally. Yeah, because I'm like I say, for me, and I'm sure. I mean, I've had a lot of messages from people who heard my episode on your podcast, and I've had some lovely messages, and they've dived into my podcast, and I'm intrigued because you talk yourself down a little bit there about not being, you know, necessarily in the academic stream, but what you have got is, for me, which is something I'm trying to integrate more into me, because I probably did fall a little bit into the jock side of things and football and, you know, all that stuff. And as I've gotten older, I'm trying to bring in more humility, and like, I love it when I'm around people like you, and I got this from when I met you the first time in physical world, you know, and I felt it from you in the podcast, as I'm sure listeners to this podcast will, you know, just a genuine, there's a selflessness and just a genuine feeling. But you what you have got is that you've got that go-getter. You're not afraid to go into the unknown. That's what I read from you. You know, you're prepared to get your sleeves up and crack on and get after stuff. So, you know, I think that's really important, and that prevails in the end.
And what's interesting about that is I was talking to Pip about this a little while ago, and it's really weird because it's all been an absolute huge blag. because when I look at it and I just think, right, I'm a qualified mechanic, right? I literally. I mean, yeah.
Would that have been like a YT thing? Well, you would have been YT then.
I've got a City and Guilds.
Okay.
So I mean, the thing was, we considered moving to Australia a few years ago, and that qualification could have got me in,
really?
Which is incredible, because I wouldn't know what the fuck to do with any car. Like
bureaucracy for you, that isn't it?
Like, it really is. But yeah, and so I was a qualified mechanic, but I wouldn't know anything about cars. You know, I had a record deal in a band that I played in. I can't play any instruments properly. You know, I was a singer in a band for 7 years. I can't sing.
Well, let's not gloss over that, Stu. How did that come about? So you come out of school, you're a mechanic, you're getting into music, and you're encyclopedic with your music. You are a music lover, aren't you? There's not a lot you don't know about UK music from when you've been alive.
I'm obsessive.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm very obsessive over that. And that, if I said I had a skill, that's the only skill I say I've got. Well, like, I'm an anorak for music.
So how did you mentioned with Cunt and the Gang, you were messing about on the keyboard at like 10, 11, messing about. So how did you sort of weave into the band, and how did all that get going?
Well, we would also go to sort of boot sales and just like buy so much vinyl, like just 7-inch singles, going back to, you know, this would have been around 89, and we would be buying all the synth pop stuff from the early 80s. You know, we was obsessed with kind of infectious synth driven pop music, and that was something that, you know, to this day I still adore. And then around 88, 89, I think also bands that I was into that still had echoes of that, like New Order and Depeche Mode and things like that, all of a sudden started making music again, and it was dark, and it was like, oh, this is interesting. And then at that point, it's such a fucking cliche, Sam, but I saw the Stone Roses on Top of the Pops, and I was like, fucking hell, how cool is this guy, and why does this sound like nothing I've ever heard before? And it was watching Fool's Gold on Top of the Pops, and I was like, right, okay, I need to find out more about this. And then just kind of got more and more obsessed with alternative music and alternative culture, and that's when I first went to my club. And I went there as a customer, and I walked in, and they were playing a song called Groove with Mr. Blow by Mr. Blow, which is like an instrumental track of a harmonica. It's an amazing song. You know, it used to get played a lot in the sort of Northern Soul clubs and stuff. And I was like, and I looked around that club, and there was people like dressed like Robert Smith. There was people dressed like Morrissey. There was this was been like 90, 91. Loads of guys in shorts with dreads and that were into like Wonder Stuff and Pop Elite Itself and that kind of what we called a Grebo scene then. And there was just so many different colourful types of people. And up until then, I've been trying to hold my own in these clubs where you had to wear trousers, you know, and a shirt, and, you know, drink bottles of, you know, lager and you know, and at some point go and ask a girl to have a slow dance at half past 1 to get in now by Alita Adams. And it was like, fucking hell, like I'm not enjoying this. It's like, you know, and then I go there and everyone's wearing whatever they fucking want, and they're all throwing each other around the dance floor. And when they fall over, everyone's rushing to pick them up. And I was like, this is a bit of me. Like, I like this, and it did. It just going in that club changed my whole life. Like,
well, isn't it beautiful that to this day that very spirit though is what you kept alive in there.
And it is. And every Friday night, I miss walking in that club and not getting that magic because I've had it. But I like standing on the front door of that club and watching people come in and get that magic. Yeah. You know, because it's so weird. You know, I'll stand outside and I talk to, you know, I call them kids that are like 21, just going, yeah, but you know, like back in the day at the club. And I was like, back in the day is like 3 years ago to them. And it's like, and it's brilliant because that's their formative moment. That was their, you know, that was their, and it's like, and I love that. And I think from that moment, me and the guy from Company Gang, I won't say his real name because he'll kill me. And we started kind of putting a band together to sing the songs we wrote when we were 10. And so, we found a guitarist and a drummer, and just when we was all at college, you know, and this was when I was studying mechanics. And so it was a very strange time, Sam, because like, I'm taking nothing away from the lads in my mechanics class. They were top boys. But we would sit there and like, you know, be talking about clutches or whatever stuff is in cars. and I was just thinking, I bet no one in here's heard of the Smiths. And like, and then it was so weird because we'd be queuing up to go into our lesson, and the corridor to the mechanics place was on the same corridor that the art block and the fashion block was down the end. And I'd see these beautiful girls dressed in like really kind of cool alternative clothing walking past, and I was like, they wouldn't look to the left because we was all in overalls and, you know, we weren't their bag. But I was like, and I just kind of wanted to sort of reach out and go, I'm one of you. Yeah. But I, you know, but then it'd get to lunchtime, and then every lunchtime I would go and hang out with my other mates that were studying stuff like art, and then we put this band together, and we played our first gig at that college in the lunch break. So
what were you doing in the band, Stu? What was your
well, the band was called Serious Problem, and the singer was me and the guy from Company Gang, and then there was a stack of other musicians in there, and then I remember playing this gig, and there's a really funny photo of it. I'll send it to you afterwards, Sam. And there's like, I mean, the fact that we was at a college common room in a lunch break playing these songs. I mean, one of the songs was called "Take That, Our Cunts," and like, you know, so that wank mag, and like, you know, so it gives you an idea of the nature of like where we was at with it. You know, it's very viz, and what's brilliant is that there's probably about 300 people in this space all watching, and you can see everybody's laughing. And if you look to the far corner, there's one girl standing there with her arms crossed, looking thoroughly unimpressed. I know that looks so well.
Right.
That was my wife.
Carol.
I didn't know her, and like, and it was only like fucking hell, like years and years later when I saw that picture, I was like, "Fucking hell, that's you!" She was like, "Oh God, yeah, that was you. That was shit."
Oh wow, that's beautiful. Isn't that beautiful though? That's kind of beautiful, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah,
she wasn't impressed then. She's just like not having it.
Yeah, like but yeah, and then and it all kind of, from that moment of just doing that little gig, it just walked off. It wasn't a stage; it was on the floor. Just, you know, walked outside for, you know, a fag or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I remember just thinking, "Oh my God! Like, I've just played Wembley. Like, you know, we're going to be so famous now." Yeah. And like, obviously, you know, God knows how fucking dreadful that must have sounded. But the gig, as much as my, you know, the conversation we was having afterwards, like, yeah, this is it, lads. You know, we're going to smash it now. You know. But they're the best days. You've been in bands, Sam. You know it is. Them early first gigs are the best things ever, because it's all to be played for, isn't it?
Yeah, and you're so naive, and there is something, I think it almost comes back to what we were chatting about with lockdown earlier, about when a collection of people are kind of there and they want to see the thing or hear the thing, you know, they're there to see it, and you do something, and whether arms are folded or not, there's something happening, isn't there? There's an exchange, and when you're young
100%.
and you're naive and you've held that attention, you know, and people have got something from it, that's fucking. There's something in that. There's something in the bodies in the room, in that moment that hasn't been captured on film or whatever. Just that thing there. Yeah, that is amazing. I remember it well. And I think how many young lads or young girls have had that conversation where they come out that first rehearsal, that first gig, and like, this is fucking it. This is it. This is it. We are. And you need to be like that. It has to be like that, doesn't it? That's the magic. That is the magic.
I still come out of meetings and podcasts and have them thoughts still. You know, that excitement, you know. And yeah, I guess from that moment, it did actually kind of move quite quickly. Like all of a sudden, I lost my weight, you know, I lost the kind of weight, and then all of a sudden I'd started a little alternative night, like DJing, and I was starting to sort of get attention from girls, which I'd never had. I was such a late developer there, you know, I would have been like 19, and all of a sudden, you know, I was getting like, you know, I've got a girlfriend, and I was like, wow, this is mad. And the guy from Cunt and the Gang went off to do like serious music for a bit, and then we kind of started to really sort of focus on what we could do as a band. And as much as it was quite novelty based, we ended up kind of getting a really good guitarist, and then we got a guy called DJ Destruction in, who was the UK DMC scratch champion.
Powerful.
And then we started to kind of hone it a little bit, and then it all of a sudden started to kind of come together around the time of, like, you know, the Beasties and things like that, that we kind of was doing something different, and we was actually a tight band. So that was quite strange, and I got quite confident then, because I started to really like being a bit of I guess I was an attention seeker for a bit, and enjoyed that attention, because up until then I was just a bit of an in-betweener and the fat kid that couldn't you know, get a girlfriend and stuff like that. And I will stress again that I weren't unhappy.
Yeah. Just aware. I mean, and it's almost like that's coiled energy as well, isn't it? So when you do look around a rehearsal room, and you think, fucking hell, this is tight, that feeds you anyway. I mean, look at people like Ian Curtis, you know, he's just, when you're there and that energy fills you, you do elevate, don't you? You can elevate when it's tight.
And it just kind of went, you know, all of a sudden we was playing like good gigs, and obviously we're like literally sort of, you know, 25 minutes away from London, so we had access to go in and play like regular gigs, and we played a gig a place called the George Roby, which is long gone, in Finsbury Park, I think it was, and we got approached after that gig by this guy that said he was the Ents manager at University of London Union, like ULU, and he said, look, I think this is really good, I'd like to manage her. And we was like, okay, do you know, what if you managed anyone else? And he was like, yeah, I managed a band called Suede.
Oh,
like,
wow.
Okay.
And were you aware of Suede at that time, I guess, yeah?
Not at that point, no. Like, they hadn't broke through.
Right.
But that guy was Ricky Gervais. And so Rick ended up managing us for a couple of years, and then, you know, he wasn't famous then. No one knew.
Well,
Ricky
a lot of people that I talk to don't know that Ricky himself had a bit of a stint as a pop star, didn't he? And then even
very handsome man.
Yeah, and lesser known that he went on to do stuff like that with you guys. So were you an iteration of Serious Problem again, or what band were you at that point? That
was Serious Problem. Yeah. And so all of a sudden we started sort of playing like more sort of, I guess, serious gigs. Although the you know, it was really weird, because the idea that what we used to do was just play off the crowd. You know, we'd get in loads of like slagging matches with the crowd, and we'd encourage it, and it, you know, and we'd just dig people out, and no, not with malice at all.
No, part of the I guess the energy of what you're doing.
Yeah, and it was completely that, and like, you know, I guess because there was a lot of comedy to the music, like a comedian will start working his way through the crowd. You know. Yeah. But then we got a showcase. Ricky organised this showcase for us to play to a record label. And we're like, right, okay. And it was called, and it was Gut Records. It was, and I think they signed St Etienne and maybe said Fred. I can't think who else. But we was like, oh right, wow, yeah, we're gonna get a record deal. And then it was like, can you do a gig like in 2 days' time? Like, and it was like, oh okay. And well, and normally we book like coaches and that and bring loads of people along to these shows. And so we done it last minute, and it was at the what was it? In Walthamstow? I can't remember what the venue in Walthamstow was called. Anyway, we the Standard in Walthamstow, and I said, look, we ain't gonna be able to bring a crowd. He went, don't worry about it. The other bands will be there, like, you know, play to their crowd, which is a dog move, you know. But and I used to hate it when other bands would do that to us. But it was like, look, we've got 2 days. We can't arrange buses and stuff like that because, you know, we just didn't have fun.
Job,
anyway, yeah. And so we got there, and the other 2 bands cancelled on the day. So there was just us, and there was 9 people in my band, and there was just Ricky and the 2 guys from the record label standing there, and no one else in there. And we'd sort of finished the first song, and was like, fucking state of your air, and then just started ripping the 2 guys from the record label because we had no one else to have a go at.
Staying true to the blueprint.
And like, don't get me wrong, we was punk as fuck, but maybe a bit too punk to get a record deal with Gut Records, because I remember they must have just walked out and gone, fuck me, that's never happened before. The band that are normally trying to impress us absolutely ruined us. And we never got a record deal. But yeah, it was...
How was that, Stu? How was it trying to get rehearsals together with 9 people?
It's really... I guess it fell on me.
Right.
It fell on me as the kind of one that was the least talented in the band, but the most driven. And so it would be me that would be doing that constantly. And that's something that kind of has been everything that I've done up until probably we're still going on.
Do you know what?
As well.
That chimes just the same with me. I just did a podcast, last one that went out with a old friend of mine. We were bands together from being kids, and I kind of joked with him on the podcast, same thing. Like I had no right in being there, to be honest. I was like the footballing kid, you know, quite a confident kid, and I was like, I'll sing, you know, and just totally blagged it. But I had the drive, and I think that drive, people recognise that, and you know, and over the time I managed to turn a bad tune of mine into something reasonable, you know, with some reverb and what have you. But definitely the drive, and I think again the same as you. Like I've managed to utilise that in whatever I'm doing. You know, I'm not really great at anything other than just like believing, okay, we'll pick it up, turn it around, see what it does, have a go, and you know, and if it don't work, put it back down, try the next one. Yeah.
And I remember like always thinking, if this band don't work, I don't want to be that guy in 5 years' time going, oh, we were better than them. It's like, you know, I just want to be able to go, fuck me, we gave that 110, and it didn't work, weren't meant to be, on to the next thing, and that's kind of where I get a lot of closure, and then that starts the excitement for what's next.
Yeah,
totally. And you know, I've never been one hung up on like, why didn't that work? I think, you know, that's just a waste of fucking energy.
Was there a point then? Was there a point where you sort of hung your band life gloves up? Did you come to that point, or did you carry on doing bits?
Really, well, that band kind of went... It was really weird. Like, the guitarist joined the Prodigy.
There you go.
And yeah, so it all kind of went... I think we all wanted to make serious music.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I kind of found myself in a strange place then. I kind of was starting to... I kind of... When the band finished, I was a little bit lost. I was DJing at the club that I've been DJing at the Pink Toothbrush for a fair few years at this point. But I then, I look back now and I know exactly what it was, but it was definitely, you know, an eating disorder, and bulimia, and then that started to kind of take a bit of a hold on kind of day to day, really.
Yeah, everything, I guess, encompasses everything, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it was also something that I guess probably just through the fact that even in the mid-90s, it wasn't necessarily massively encouraged to for men to be open with their feelings and things like that, and I'd never heard of a man with a eating disorder, and I didn't even think I had an eating disorder. I just thought I was just trying to stay slim by throwing up, and then it was only as that started to kind of just kind of affect other things that I thought, okay, this is strange. And then I started kind of like, it all happened at once, really. Like the person that was always the one that, taking nothing away from my folks, but they were always like, get yourself a trade, which I've done, and is there going to be, you can make a living with all this silly music stuff, and me nan was always like, look, just do what makes you happy.
Nans always save the day, don't they? In that way, it seems.
Yeah, of course, man, of course. And then basically, literally, in the September of '95, my nan died. I got dumped, and the band split up. And so it just kind of was a bit of a fucking wafty couple of months, but I just thought, right, okay, well, I'm going to start writing about it. And so, textbook kind of things, I've had my heart broken, I'm going to write some miserable love songs. And I did. And it was really, really helpful. And then ended up sort of putting together a band with some people that I knew. And I was going to write the songs, and I was going to sort of play keys. And I'd never played a keyboard before, but I thought it's got to be the easiest thing to play. So
I love that.
I'll buy a keyboard, and I used to buy a black eyeliner pencil, and I'd write C, D, E, F, G on all of them, which proved to be a problem as the
you get all sweaty in the club and
yeah, exactly, yeah. Then I was in all sorts of bother then, mate. But I got, literally, we put this little sort of 3-track demo together, and I, at the time, Ricky had just got the job at the new XFM radio station, and so I went up to see Ricky and was like, "Have a listen to this. This is like my new band," and he was like, "This is all right." And because I don't know what he expected it to sound like coming from
I'll get it's a world apart, I imagine.
Yeah, and this was way more kind of serious.
You've still got this stuff. You've still got this stuff, yeah.
Yeah, got a few bits.
You'll have to send me some bits.
And, every time you have them conversations, I just think of fucking League of Gentlemen. I just think opening me drawer with all the cassettes in. Yeah, it's a shit business,
I'd love to hear it. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah. But yeah, and then we that just kind of I just pushed, and we got a record deal, and then
on your stuff though. So that must have been nice after that period of difficulty and those things happening in '95 there, for you to then take that onus on and go, do you know what, I'm going to kind of, without I guess even really knowing it, you're going to just do therapy on yourself and just get it out on the paper. The confidence, that thing we come back to, you drive, you write, fuck it, I'll do it. I'll just fucking write the notes on the keyboard. I'm up for it, For you to be the songwriter and just create it from the inside out and then get that record deal, that must have been nice. That must have been a good feeling.
Yeah, I think so. But it's that imposter thing, You just always think like, I'm blagging this. I'm fucking blagging it.
But aren't we all? Pip must even feel that, doesn't he? Aren't we all feeling that?
Definitely. It's I don't know. I don't know if it's an Essex thing, but yeah, and it just when you look at the bands that were putting records out there, I'm just like, I could never make a record.
It's
like
a rich
that,
time then, wasn't it? You're going into
and
britpop era.
Yeah. That was just the tail end of that.
Yeah.
It was coming out of that, and acoustic guitars were showing up. It was Travis, Turing Brakes, Embrace. It was kind of more around then, sort of OK Computer era.
So what were we like, 98 getting on that way, 97, 98?
Yeah. It would have been 98, I think. And then, all I ever sort of said was like, I want to do one tour, and I don't care where we play. I just want to get in a van with my mates and do one tour. And I want to get on the radio and I want to get on the telly, like once. And we got, at the time, Bob Geldof was at XFM, and he gave us Record of the Week.
Ah, wicked.
And then we had a like a Renault Traffic van, like minibus, and we managed to do 3 tours, like just playing all the kind of toilet circuit to Two Men and a Dog every night, but sleeping on floors, sleeping in the van. We had worked out we had a budget of about £5 each a night, and then we also realised that Odd Bins were doing 2 bottles of wine for £5, so we'd have a bottle before we went on, and then we'd have. We only drank white wine. We weren't cool enough to drink red wine then. And so we'd walk off stage, and then the second bottle of £2.50 wine would be warm, and we'd take turns when we'd try and gulp it, holding each other's shoulders to steady him, because you drink it, it'd be like, your shoulders would shudder because it was so rank.
Oh man!
But yeah, and then we got on this really weird kids TV show, and then basically we ended up. Like we did do some really fun stuff. We played with some great bands, and we had the best time ever. And we put an album out, and we put out a couple of EPs. And then I remember it vividly. We went to play at the Monarch, not the Monarch. The what's the one next to the Forum? I can't think what it's called. The Bull and Gate. And we went to play at the Bull and Gate, and we was playing with this band from Bristol called Halo, and we was backstage. And about 3 weeks before, we played Club Ivor Back. And if there's any Welsh people listening and I pronounce that wrong, I apologise. And we played there with a band called Terrace. And they didn't have a bass player. They had this guy on this little sort of like 303 thing. And I remember watching them thinking, fucking hell.
They're good.
This is like incredible. And it made me feel a bit old.
Right.
And it made me feel like my music was, it'd be like... I don't know, it'd be like watching Radiohead, and then you put your album on and it's the script.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
And I remember seeing them.
That's a great.
Sorry to any script fans out there.
Oh.
But yeah, and I just watched this fucking performance as well, and I was like, holy shit, this band's incredible. But I knew we was tight as fuck. And I knew we were all right, and I remember sort of we was all a bit quiet in the van that night on the way to, I think, wherever we went after fucking Cardiff, probably Bath, and I remember just thinking, and starting to doubt yourself, your abilities, and that's when the imposter thing comes in.
Yeah.
It was like, and then that band Terrace got the cover of the Enemy, and they were going to be this huge thing, and I don't know what happened, but they were fucking amazing.
Right.
And then we got to the Bull and Gate to play with this band from Bristol called Halo, and they went on to get signed by Sony, and then backstage we was drinking our bottle of wine each, and they were practicing harmonies.
Yeah, I've had that moment.
And I remember just thinking, fucking knobs, like what fucking unrock and roll's that? And we were far from fucking the Gallaghers, do you know what I mean? We were pretty normal people. But I remember just thinking, fucking that don't look like fun. Like literally just standing there with bottles of water, like doing harmonies. And then we went out and played, and then they come out, and I just literally watched that gig, and I was like, they made the music I wanted to make,
right,
but wasn't good enough to be able to make.
Got you.
And so that night I just went, I'm done, lads.
So that's like a profound moment when something like that happens.
It was just like every sound that I wanted to put in a record, everything I wanted to do, but the fact that I wasn't a good musician, and none of us were good enough really. We was all like the other rest of the members were musicians, but didn't really have the ideas and couldn't voice them ideas. That would be more me.
Yep.
And I just realised we were never going to be this band, so I was like, let's knock this on the head, and while we've had a blast, and I got on the radio, I got on the telly, and I put my album out and done my tour, and I was like,
you got that piece from
I can put that to bed, and like no one remembers us, no one,
What was that band called, Stu? That one was
Lilo, Lylo.
Lylo. Lylo.
And yeah, but like it was just, I don't know. It's nice every now and again when I catch up with them and we reminisce, and each time we reminisce, the stories get a little bit more exaggerated, and you know,
we were crazy.
Yeah, but yeah, it was you know that was something that I'd always just loved doing, and then when that kind of finished, I was like, right, okay, what am I going to do? Because like I don't want to be in a band anymore. And then the guy that owns the club went, do you want to run my club? And I was like, okay. And then that was it. I kind of threw myself into running, the club. And then literally met my wife there, and then I think like.
So you and Carol that's where you sort of got together as well in the Toothbrush.
Yeah.
Oh, fucking hell, that place is a magical place for you, isn't it?
It's pretty magical, yeah. And it's magical for a lot of people, Sam.
Yeah.
It's like, the amount of people that have had wedding receptions in a nightclub that have just turned up, like in wedding dresses with like Doc Martens on, and just come in and gone, right, we've done all this bit, can we just fucking lose our minds now? And it's like, yeah, cool. And like, and we've had people still coming back like every year for their anniversary. People that, I'm 47, and there's people come back that are older than me that are just like, and the amount of people that come down with their kids, it's like, my dad ain't been down here since he was like 20. Like,
wow.
It is a magical place, mate.
There's a documentary, isn't there? There's a documentary.
Mm-hmm.
What's the
Yeah.
Aidan, just jot this down. What's the documentary? How do we find a documentary?
It's if you go on YouTube, it's called Pink Toothbrush 30.
Pink Toothbrush 30, yeah.
Yeah, it was made by the guy that makes all the Pips videos.
Right.
Tom Coles and me and
that's
Tom
right. Yeah, excellent.
documented it, and Pip's on there, Phil Jubitus is on there, Nitzareb, The Milk, blimey, loads of bands that have played there, and grown up in there.
And there's some serious bands played there. I think you mentioned Radiohead earlier, didn't you? Radiohead, Grace.
Right, yeah, still got the contract on the wall. 50 quid and a case of beer to support the Sultans of Ping.
Thank you, Tommy Orr. Yeah.
But I mean, when it opened, like the in-house band was Depeche Mode. Like,
Fucking
that
hell.
was they were the residents, and Culture Club played their first ever gig there, and it's a good doc. It's worth watching.
Well, we're going to link that in. Aidan's making note of that now. What's it been like, kind of pre-lockdown, pre-pandemic and all that? What we have seen is like a lot of gentrification and a lot of like streamlining of chains of things like nightclubs and so on. Has it been a job keeping a Toothbrush and its identity and its as a business, as a standalone business, in recent years? Or is it just got its strong?
We're so lucky, Sam. We're so lucky, and literally maybe. I think this year before lockdown, I've done 2 separate interviews with like BBC Essex and and things like that about the fact that, because our club is probably like 10 minutes from Southend-on-Sea, which is a big town.
Yeah.
Famously had we have 5 or 6 clubs. It's got none now. They've all gone. And like and the nightclub industry is fucked. And I'd be really interested to see how it comes out of this.
Yeah.
And when it comes out of this, because we've no idea. And
just quickly, Stu, what is the difference between being in a nightclub and being in a shopping centre?
I guess maybe a shopping centre could be easier to police. I don't know. Hopefully people aren't pissed. If you are in,
the inebriation of it all.
If you are in Lakeside and you're pissed, you need to have a look at yourself, mate.
Yeah, I didn't think of that bit. I didn't think of the inebriation sort of it. Yeah.
I mean, clubs are hard to manage
Anyway,
every weekend.
yeah.
Like without having to sort of try and keep people a metre apart. It won't happen, until we won't open until restrictions are completely gone. But what was I going to say? The reason I think that we have bucked it is because every club in Essex, I mean, we're also the county that is home to Sugar Hut. So there's lots of clubs like that where, you know, there's lots of very well groomed men with tight trousers and you know, done up to the nines, and there's lots of fake tans and fake everything actually, you know, and that's, you know, that's the side of Essex that I've never involved myself in, but there's lots of places in Essex that go towards that, so it's saturated. And just general high street clubbing, you know, not generic, but just, you know, commercial dance music, your high street chains, your Time and Envies or whatever they're called, Vivids, Elites, all them ones with them sort of name. Yeah. All of that, you know, they're all fighting over a similar crowd, you know, and they're all constantly trying to stay fashionable. We're the most unfashionable club in the country, but we've got a style. Fashion comes and goes constantly. Style remains the same. You know, you might have wore boot cut, skinny jeans, blah, blah, blah. Someone's always wore a pair of 501s. Yeah. And whenever they wear them, they're out of trouble because they're stylish.
Yeah, totally.
And so our unique style of being a bit dirty, a bit smelly, full of weirdos.
How about honest? Fucking just honest, just an honest, truthful gang.
And it is.
Yeah.
And, you know, all our unique selling points. We had this guy leave a message on on TripAdvisor saying, the club is full of freaks. It smells. The music's fucking... What is it? The music's fucking loud and shit. And I can't think what else it was. He just slated us. And we're like, geez, just highlighted all our unique selling points. And so we just quoted it and put it on a load of hoodies and T-shirts.
Used it for your...
Yeah, we put it on. We use it on all our artwork now. It's like, it's fucking great. It's like, you know... We ain't for you, mate. It's fine. Yeah. You know, lots of people come in and go, fucking hell, this music's not for me. You know, a lot of people don't like really loud guitar music, and some people walk in and just go, it smells in here, like, you know, and just turn around and walk straight back out.
It's not for them, is it?
Cool. That's fine. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure lots of the clubs that they go to wouldn't be for me and lots of our customers. So you're more than welcome in. You know, everyone's welcome. Wear whatever you want, be whoever you want. You know, we often get said like, well, what about like if I turned up at one of their clubs dressed like this, I wouldn't be allowed in. But they can turn up in their Brentwood outfit, you know, their Sugar Rat outfit and walk straight in. It's like, yeah, but we can't stop people coming in for wearing what they want. That's everything that we are. It's like, be who you want, wear what you want.
We need that.
Come in.
We need that,
like,
Stu.
Yeah, and if it ain't for you, no worries.
Exactly.
You know?
Take it or
But
leave
some
it.
people come in and have that moment I had where they just go, oh, this is home. Like, and 30 years later, still there. You know, it's like...
So is the toothbrush kind of in safe hands as we go through this period then? Is it just a case of just waiting for the nod and hoping people want to still go and get messy?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good to know.
You know, the news today certainly is that, you know, we're just, you know, we're super excited about when we can open and...
Oh, nice one.
You know, as soon as it's safe to do so, we look forward to it, yeah.
So, bringing it back around to Podbible and your podcasting and kind of where we're at today, you've managed, and, you know, I talk about Podbible pretty much every podcast, you know, because you guys have been brilliant with me, with Tudor Chat and supportive, and we've done our adverts for you and you've put us on bits and bobs. It's been amazing. How are you finding that? How's that been? I bet was that quite scary going into this period because it's only in its second year, got to establish itself. You mean you've done a couple of crazy deals as well, didn't you? You know, which were great for Podbible with Audible and Times.
We've been lucky that early on, it just grew out of just that necessity of having a podcast and not knowing how to get more listeners. So there weren't an NME or a Kerrang, which I would have gone to in the band days. So I was like, well, there ain't anything. So I said to Pip, should we try something? And he was like, yeah, all right. So, yeah, we put the mag together and we put our podcasts out on Acast. So we had a relationship with them and they were really, really cool and backed us right from the beginning. And then we spoke to Spotify and they backed us. And we launched with 5,000 magazines that involved me and Pip standing at train stations in London at 7 o'clock in the morning, just handing them out. And you know, it was exciting. It felt punk and new. And yeah, and it helped obviously having Pip involved, and I should also say that there's three of us. There's Adam as well. I shouldn't overlook Adam, who's literally, if we didn't have Adam, it would look like a bag of shit. He makes it look really good.
Yeah. My name is Ad. You can find him Instagram. Yeah, my name is Ad.
And so it seemed to just come along at the right time, and I think that was kind of a big part of why it grew quite quickly, was just because we had no competition, and I think we just got in first, and because none of us were like super wise and experts on magazines and things like that. I've read a lot, but
well, that itself is a change in trade, isn't it? Because print and digital, that whole thing's difficult to navigate anyway.
And it is, and obviously you're thinking, oh fucking hell, like print's dead, but niche print isn't.
No, yeah.
And then it kind of grew, and then Audible got involved, and then the Sunday Times said, do you want to put the mags in the paper? And so we was like, okay, cool. And so we upped it to 40,000, and it was a good year, and then literally it seemed to just keep moving up, and then this has happened, and so we're so lucky that in these times, we've got our our backers and our advertisers, and thank you to you, Sam, for working with us as well, and supporting it, and it's the fact that the Sunday Times is still being printed meant the magazine still gets distributed, because if it was still me and Pip at the train station,
it's over, innit, at that point.
We ain't giving out any magazines there.
No.
So we've been really lucky, and we've been doing online listening parties. We've got one tonight on Twitter, and we're just about to do something to kind of hopefully launch us in the States.
Oh, excellent! That's exciting.
Yeah, so there'll be some news coming soon on that, and we've got a couple of meetings this week about like a big event, like which could be really exciting as well. So just kind of sort of, the thing is with podcasting, as you know, Sam, it is just fucking punk. It's so punk. It is you can be that dickhead with the fucking letters on your keys of your keyboard and start a podcast. And it's like, I was doing some work yesterday about, because what's weird is, because I've got this magazine now, people sort of ask me questions like I'm an expert on podcasting, and it's like, have you heard our call listing? Do you know what I mean? It's like,
which is brilliant, because that's your selling point for that show as well, which again is the same theme of everything you've said. It's just like, let's just give it a whirl and put it in and mean it. I love that.
Yeah. And it's like, you start to kind of, because people ask you so much, like, how do you start a podcast? What do I need to record one? How do I put it on iTunes? How do I put it on Spotify? And like, how do I get people to listen? And it's like, there's no rule book yet, because you could have, an audio drama that you spent 20 grand on production putting together, or you could have a podcast, that I record, where I sit much like you do, sit in a room with a Zoom recorder and a couple of mics, and we're off. Yeah. And it's like, and so there is no real rule book. And I was trying to sort of write that in a piece of writing yesterday, and as I was just sort of breaking it all down and looking at what you could do and how recent all these things are coming in place, it does like give me a buzz of excitement as to like, fucking hell, like, where's podcasting going? It's like, it's just evolving, and like, live podcasts are like fucking huge now, and seeing podcast stages at festivals and things like that. It's like, when this all subsides and it's back to, a healthy normality, then I just think we're going to see some incredible stuff come from the podcast industry. I think it's going to have a big impact on radio. And you're seeing radios, networks and that already sort of podcasting.
Yeah, they're making. I mean, you look at Radio X and that. I mean, they've basically it's morphing into sort of podcast dynamics, isn't it?
Yeah,
YouTube clips and the shape of the studio. It seems like they're giving them a bit more freedom. It feels a bit freer as well.
Yeah, and that's the best thing, because on a podcast, we haven't had a conversation before this. We've just come on press record, and I've literally just wanked off over my own ego for the last hour.
No, well, you listen. Like I said, you get to peel it out of everybody else, and I know clips and bits from our core listing and piecing it together. And as you mentioned, there is some parallels, which is I think I gravitate towards you as well. There is parallels in the drive,
and that's reciprocated, Sam. That's totally reciprocated.
Yeah, well,
I've said
cool.
that to you on the phone before, and we've spoke. I like your energy and excitement for things, and it goes back to what I said about the people that I grew up with that I gravitated towards were the ones that just would be like, oh fuck it, let's have a go.
Yeah, that's cool.
And that's not necessarily just in the creative industry. I just think that's in
anything.
In anything.
Yeah.
And that kind of punk ethic, I think is everything.
So with the podcast, then just sort of knit the podcast bit up here. What do you think to the Joe Rogan Spotify deal? Tell me what you think. How do you think that plays out? Do we start seeing other big podcasts, the Adam Buxtons, the Scroobius Pitts? I mean, I know you guys are Acast anyway, but do we start to see you can only get that podcast? I think Russell Brand's only on Luminary, isn't he, I think? Just what do you think? How does this play out? What do you think the future looks like there? And why do you think he's done it as well?
I think he done it for, how much was it?
I think he did it for a silly money, about 100 and something grand. So there's probably that. But do you think, I got a feeling there's maybe some censorship. I think he feels a bit pinned in by YouTube, and you can't say this and you can't show that. And I wonder, he's kind of let slip on a couple of podcasts that I've seen. Did a long one with Honey, about 4.5 hours, inebriated, pissed up, and he kind of dropped it a couple of times at you'll not be censoring me. That's why I'm at Spotify, kind of thing. And I kind of thought that. But what do you think it means for the wider podcast industry? Certainly we know what podcasts are worth now, don't we?
Yeah. I mean, we should also point out that me and you are not earning 25 million a year out of our podcasts. Rogan is the top of the tree.
Yeah.
But I do think anything, to take it back to punk again, and you sign to an indie label like Creation Records because you're excited by their drive and their excitement and belief, and then sooner or later Creation Records signs so many fucking great bands that Sony sweeps in and buys them.
Yeah.
And it's and I think that will definitely, when I first started doing podcasts, which again me and Chris were just guests on Pips because we were his mates.
That's how I came across you.
And so we just started doing it for a laugh, and then as it started to kind of as we started to take it a little bit more seriously, not the content but just the approach to it and seeing some value in it. What's really nice is in the podcast industry is the fact that most levels, no money exchanges. It's not right, Sam, will you come on our call listing? Here's 250 quid.
Yeah, appearance fees and travel.
And there's lots of really goodwill. Like when you're in an unsigned band and, can I borrow your drums? Can I borrow your amp? If you can we kit share? Can we do this? And, share a backline and things like that. Backline, not line, and then and all of them things that goodwill is what I've experienced in podcasting. But I'd be crazy to say when we start seeing podcasts like Rogan being bought for such incredible amounts of money. You are seeing lots of Spotify-owned podcasts now, lots of BBC Sounds bought podcasts. Yep. Audible originals, look at the stuff on Audible. We're about to see the Alan Partridge podcast.
Yes.
We've seen the People Do Nothing podcast, but they're behind that paywall.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I have mixed feelings on that because I was speaking to a company the other day, and basically the company owns a big platform in America and China, and they're saying in China, with podcasts, they wouldn't in a million years expect free content. So it's a given that you pay for your, whatever you want to listen to, your content.
Yep.
and I know that sounds media wanker saying content, but
no, but it's what it is,
but,
isn't it? Yeah.
But yeah, and I do. I do think that there should be a value put on your work because, as you know, like it's a lot of work, isn't it?
Fucking hell, that's why I'm looking at you. I'm just doing one episode, and yeah, we've added video, and it has like tripled the workload. But fucking hell, when I think about, and you come back to algorithms, you come back to promoting, we do a little bit of promoting before because we're tiny. So we'll put a clip out, of a video. So it's like the week, just on one episode for me works on like, Monday the audio comes out, and we do the Friday, we do the video. So for instance, when yours goes out, the audio will go out on a Monday, but the Friday preceding that will be the video because we're trying to build the YouTube. So then you've got like this whole week of like, promoting on the Thursday for the Friday video, then Monday is the drop of the audio, and then you sort of send people back or point people back to it. But come Tuesday, then Wednesday we did this podcast, and then you're onto the cycle again, and it goes right round in 1 week for just one episode for me, and it's like Jesus Christ, it's a lot of work, especially with the video now, and obviously you've got podcasts coming out your ears. You have, haven't you? Literally. I mean, you're on podcast. You've got two solid three, really, because you do the Pod Bible as well, don't you?
Yeah. I just think that the way that it's going and the fact that, because all of a sudden more people know what podcasts are. I'm still having conversations and we still ensure the first page of Pod Bible explains to people what is a podcast, how do I listen? Yeah. Because lots of people still don't know what they are. But now, you're seeing the production quality of, and the ability, the ideas that can be put together now, under the banner of a podcast is really changing, and that excites me. And I think as that industry grows and grows and grows, it's inevitable that, money will become, and bigger businesses and bigger brands are going to want to be part of it. It's inevitable. I still think there'll be, lots of smaller podcasts that are doing it, for fun, doing it to keep themselves involved and creating and things like that. And I think all the time that there's still minds doing that will be tomorrow's big podcast. Yeah. And because. Yeah, I think now there's more and more places where you can listen to podcasts. More and more people are telling their mates about podcasts, and what's good about them as well is the fact that people will listen to like a guest on a podcast and go, "Oh, that's cool." Like, "Oh, he's got a podcast. I'll go and give that a listen." Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And it's just a nice community thing, and I like that. I like that.
No, it is, and I thank your listeners at Hardcore Listeners as well, because I am which, but I've had a good handful of people who've come over and said caught your episode with Chris and Stu, really enjoyed it, and I'm going through your catalogue, and they've put people to me to have come on here, and and I love that. I love that magic where you're just finding things all the time. Just a quick one to finish on podcast. Have you caught Louis' podcast Grounded in this lockdown?
I haven't, but he had the wonderful Gail Porter on.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, great episode.
And I've not listened to it yet. Is it good?
Yeah, really good. Yeah, great. He's just done the 10 episodes. Really enjoyed it. Kind of a slightly looser version of Louis. He's in the house, and you kind of get that feel. And he's been really quite candid, and really interesting array of characters. So people point to that and check that out. But listen, you've been a gem for giving us this time, because I know how busy you are, and appreciate it, Stu.
Sam, I've always got time for you, mate.
No, I appreciate that, and
it's a real privilege. I don't get asked on many podcasts. It was like when I got the message, I was like, "Oh, cool."
I don't think anyone thinks you've got any time, Stu, to be honest. And if someone mentions podcast here, you'd be like, "Fuck off." No, it's been awesome, and it's been nice to sort of dig into your history a bit, and I guess we'll point everybody to Hardcore Listening, to Off the Beaten Track. Obviously, Pod Bible, we do that every week anyway, because we've got a lot of gratitude for you putting us in there and sticking with us. So that's great. And thank you. And we'll have to hook something up in the wild, Stu, at some point. That'd be
cool.
Me
and you are going to go and have a swim in the lake somewhere and do it.
That'd be cool. That'd be awesome. Well, listen, take care, stay safe. Thank you very much, Stu Wiffin. You've been cool.
Thank you, mate. Cheers, Sam.